the pain's going to come.
Yeah.
The pain's coming no matter what if you're looking at that distance.
Yeah, exactly.
And I suppose maybe you are thinking about those last miles, because if you've done a marathon a number of times, like, you know, you've got that experience, you've got some great PBs.
Yeah.
And now you're thinking, actually, today is about just during the duration.
Yeah.
I think you maybe start with that mindset. So what strategy did you take?
So I did an ultra actually not long after the pandemic. I did an ultra distance. I actually ran from Salisbury to Christchurch, where just followed an actual path. And because I was training for Race to the King. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, Simon.
We talked about it before.
Yeah.
So, but the ultra you did on your own?
Yeah, so the ultra I did was on my own. So I was due to do Race to the King, and then due to the pandemic, it got cancelled. But because of the nature of my work as well, it's quite hands-on with people. I wasn't able to work for about 4 months. So I just thought, okay, well, I'm going to carry on with the plan that I wanted to do for Race to the King, carry on with the training. And so I carried on with that. And so that involved some days running, maybe on a Saturday, running kind of 10 to 15 miles, and then the next day doing a similar distance or even further. So you're trying to do back-to-back kind of long runs, which I'd never really done before. So that's another thing, having to get the nutrition right again. And then once again, that's just taking enough fluid on board, getting the electrolytes back in to your body. But yeah, and also I would, during an ultra, I would kind of eat different things to when I do a marathon. So rather than just sticking to gels, I would have other things as well, actually, like kind of peanut butter sandwich or kind of wraps, like cheese wraps. So kind of taking those on board whilst I'm going, because otherwise, if you just keep having gels, like you said earlier, with the sugar content, your body just it doesn't like it. So
yeah, I think again, when I've spoken to other ultra marathon runners and I've listened to some on podcasts, they've talked about, they've actually gone back to almost having like a just normal food throughout. I mean, if you do a marathon, I think you're right, you can get through on the gels. But then eventually it's like, well, actually you need real food now. And so on some of these bigger races, they have like little stations, and you have like a sandwich or you have something else. Yeah. But it has to obviously be something reasonably digestible, because you're going to go running straight away after.
Yeah. So and even like things like crisps can be like salt and vinegar crisps, getting that salt content back in.
Okay.
Kind of dried fruit.
It was just you. So you take a backpack and
a
little lunchbox or something. Just imagine you leaving the house going, I'm off to run 35 miles now.
Yeah. So I had like a camel pack on my back. I'd taken some food with me. I was quite lucky. So probably about 20 miles in, because I ran from Salisbury to Christchurch, Ringwood was on the way, and one of my friends lives in Ringwood. So I met him in like a Waitrose car park. And he kind of helped restock my water, give a bit of food for me, and also he ran part of the route towards the end with me, so that was quite helpful.
Okay.
Just when I was starting to kind of flag a bit.
So how far was that marathon or the ultra marathon?
So that was 35 miles.
35.
Yeah.
So talk me through going from the 26 to the 35, and once you've hit the 26 mark and you're thinking, right, I've got these other 9 or whatever to do, like what are you thinking about those miles? How do you approach it?
Well, I think so beforehand it's a bit easier because you've prepared yourself for going further. And I think that's a big thing when you're prepared to running a certain distance in your mind. You've got that, you've kind of got it set there. It's the same with like a training run. If you go out to run, say, kind of 10 miles, you might get to 10 and you think, okay, you might actually be able to run further, but you've got to 10 and you just want to kind of stop because you've got to the distance you wanted to. So for me, it wasn't too bad. I knew I was going to be going for that longer distance. I think, for me, it was just the hardest part, because I've always generally run for pace. Mentally it was harder to really slow myself down and not be concerned about running quickly. It was actually, I'm not necessarily going for a time. It's more I just want to get
It's the achievement.
I just need the achievement of doing the distance. But that's that's not an easy thing sometimes to do.
Also, all of your motivation is internal at this stage because it's something you wanted to do,
Yeah.
but you don't have a crowd cheering you on. And I
Yeah.
imagine you're not doing this one for charity. You're just out there because you wanted to have the
Yeah.
personal challenge to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I had raised money
Oh, you
for
had? Oh,
charity
because
for
of-
the race to the King, so that's another reason why I wanted to make sure I still did that kind of ultra distance because I knew I had raised that money. I made sure that I still did that, and it was a great achievement. I definitely want to do some more kind of ultra distances. Then again, this year I've gone back to kind of like I did Manchester, and I've signed up again for next year. So there's still at the moment I don't think I've got the pace side of things out of my mind yet. But yeah, the ultras are definitely something I want to do more of.
So you're still thinking that with the marathons, you still want to create or get a better number?
Yeah, there's
time?
still.
Is it something that's niggling at you?
Yeah, there's still.
It's interesting.
I mean that's sub 3 hours. I mean that's a real big ask, but I think I've got the potential to do that. So that's something that I've got in my head. Definitely looking towards that. But I think if I reached that, then I'd be happy and really concentrate on the longer distances. And I think I've mentioned to you before. I've also done a couple of triathlons, the 70.3 Ironman events. They're another kind of long distance event,
Okay.
and that involves like the swimming, the cycling.
I didn't realise. Of course, the Ironman one.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you're the Ironman, it's running, swimming.
Yeah, so you start off with a swim.
Okay.
Then you do the cycle, and then the running is what you finish off with. So for me, the running is generally my better of the three disciplines. But yeah, once again, that's a different ball game as well because obviously you've got three different events. You have with the swim first of all. You've got that, and then the bike is normally the longer of the events. So the ones that I did, a swim, it's a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and then a half marathon. But the full distances, I haven't done one of these yet, but a full distance is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 on the bike, and then a full marathon to finish off.
How do you train for that? Because you're training three different disciplines, and that all of those distances are significant.
Yeah. So it's a big ask.
I mean, to swim 1.2 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, and then also it must change how you bike and how you run because, of course, I guess you're wet. After running, I don't know if you have time to really kind of regroup properly or.
Yeah. Well, you say you have your transition kind of period, but you just from the swim you take your wetsuit off. You've normally got like a tri-suit underneath, but you just get your cycle shoes on and then jump on the bike and you dry whilst you're cycling. And then same basically when you get to the run you just switch shoes from your cycle shoes to your running shoes and then go for the run really. But it's when you're cycling to then running, it's quite different because your legs have been spinning quite quickly on the bike, and then when you start running, your legs kind of want to go a similar speed because they've been cycling quickly, but you just can't maintain that. So it's real. There's a bit of an art to try and slow yourself down back for the run. But for those events, in terms of fueling, you want to take most of your fuel on the bike because it's easier then. You can be eating away or drinking all the time whilst you're cycling, whereas when you're running it's a little bit more tricky, and obviously you can't do it when you're swimming. So they're a different ball game as well.
God, I mean that just training for an Ironman like that. I mean, how do you break up your training? Because then you've got all these three different disciplines. They're all equally as hard. I'd imagine. I don't know. Do you find one easier than the other, or?
So for me, like I say, the running is obviously the easiest part.
Because you've done it so many times.
Yeah, cycling. I'm pretty average at. I'd say I can be quite consistent. but the swimming was the one I had to really work on. And it also, a lot of them are open water, so you've got to get used to swimming kind of in a lake or in the sea. So that's different from swimming in a pool. So yeah, there's a lot more to kind of think about.
It's not just the day; it's all the training you need to do before that to get yourself in a fit enough position to be able to swim like that. I mean, is there an open water place that you've been training?
Yeah, so not far from here actually. There's the Reading Lakes. They've got a good kind of open water lake to swim in. There's a lot more actually around now. It's quite a big thing, the open water swimming. There's a couple, one at Yateley, Horseshoe Lakes, and there's another one, I think it's Mitchett Lake as well. So a lot more people are getting into the open water swimming. I mean, these events are growing all the time. Once again, the reason I decided to do one was one of my clients came in and did a full Ironman at Bolton, which is the English Ironman, and that's one of the toughest actually to do. But he kind of inspired me to think, okay, I'd like to have a go at the Ironman distances.
What do you think motivates you to do this? Is it the challenge? Is it?
Yeah, I think definitely the challenge, trying something different. But yeah, definitely the challenge of trying to achieve something different definitely inspires me. I think that's just the way I am really. But yeah, in terms of, I think I'll get to a point where, well, we've already discussed with the marathons where, I will have done. There's right now, like I say, I've done about 7 or 8, and I don't see myself doing too many more. I want to do London. London's one that obviously you've done it, so you probably know how it feels doing that.
It's incredible, but I've only done one fully organised marathon, which was London, which was a long time ago now. I've done others, which is the same way you did your ultras, which was me off on my own. Yeah. I did a lot of those mainly during the COVID period because the gyms were closed, and I just started doing a lot of running during that period, and that's kind of when I really got. So I've done most of my running on my own. Okay. But it was the London, which I trained for. I think it was 2007, and that was for me that was just about ticking off the old life list of just I wanted to challenge, run a marathon. It was that kind of situation, and I did about 6 months training before. But I wouldn't say I was unfit. I played a lot of football before that, and I did some running and all those sorts of things. But I think. Then I did a lot of the hill running, just like you said. So I follow quite a regimented approach. But on the day I don't think you can prepare for it. But if you're not someone who's really naturally good at running, I was very slow at running at school. I was always sort of just plodded along. The actual day is so unbelievable and hard and brilliant and difficult.
Go through loads of different emotions.
Oh, yeah. And it just, for me, I mean, like I said, it took about 5.5 hours, but it was a really hot day. And but I suppose the big thing was just the crowd. Mm-hmm. There were so many people. Everyone was shouting your name, and it's deep with just 4 or 5 people here, and it's the cheering on, and it's an amazing experience. Yeah. I'd recommend anyone to do at least one to tick it off your list. Yeah. It's just an achievement thing, I think, really, to really push yourself.
Yeah, and I think especially for London, obviously as a Brit as well, that it wouldn't be any better, I don't think, getting to that finish line and where you've had all that support. Be a good feeling.
I think for someone who's never ran before, I mean, for anyone listening, if you've never ran before, this it's an exciting thing. It's an area to do it. I mean, obviously, if you've run lots before, then it's going to be exciting because you're on your own turf. Yeah. Possibly looking. London's a bit flatter as well, I'd imagine.
It is. Yeah.
So I imagine it's quite a quick.
Yeah. But then you've got the amount of people running it that balances out, because you might end up weaving in and out of lots of people. I don't think London's kind of like, if I was to do London, I'd go there to kind of enjoy it take in the crowds, like you said.
Because I think from a scenic perspective, I remember running over the bridge and just thinking, I can't believe I'm running over London Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you're running through London just thinking, this is immense.
Yeah.
Just so that takes your breath away as well.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a funny story. When I went to do the marathon on the day, they said go. And I had a phone call. It's my nan. She passed away now, bless her. But I always remember her, bless her. So I answered the phone. I put on speakerphone. She goes, "Oh, I just wanted to wish you good luck to run the marathon today." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Nan. I'm actually running it right now." And she was like, "Oh, are you?" I'm like, and I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, I'm watching the television. I can't see you." And I was like, "I promise I'm running it right." And I had all these people around me, and they all started cheering.
Amazing.
Like shouting, "Hello, Nan."
Yeah.
And I just thought, just always remember that, bless her, because she couldn't quite actually comprehend that I was actually running at that moment.
Yeah.
Because the marathon had already kicked off. But yeah, bless her. That was. But I definitely recommend to anyone to run a marathon.
Yeah.
For someone who's thinking about it, what would be your advice around training and preparing, and on the day? Any advice you give to someone who's thinking about running it for the first time?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So in terms of if you're going to think about doing a marathon, what I would say is you've got to build up gradually to it. You can't just, if you're not a runner, just go and decide in 3 or 4 months I'm going to do a marathon. Well, that's not ideal. I mean, some people can do it, but I would recommend you need to try and do at least 2 or 3 halves before doing a marathon. Because if you do your running too quickly, you're just going to end up getting injured. Really, it's as simple as that. If you end up increasing your distance or your speed